and welcome to Redheads on Romance, the podcast where Lily, that's me, and Holly,
that's me,
review romance novels and Hallmark movies for our own entertainment and hopefully yours too. So join us for a slightly snarky look at the spicy and sentimental side of Happily Ever After. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. We're back. Sorry for the brief hiatus. I'm going to go ahead and take all the blame for that. I just have so many activities and kids' activities and volunteer things and work. So anyway, all my fault. But that's neither here nor there. We're back. It's me again, Lily.
And this is Holly.
And we're back to talk about a Christmas movie today. It is Christmas time, so that's what brings us back from our hideaway.
Yes, as you all know, we love our Hallmark movies, whether it's to actually enjoy them or just make fun of them. They are kicking into high gear, and I saw this preview on Netflix, which I figure probably more people have that than Hallmark Channel. Starring many of our childhood favorites, and it just seemed like we absolutely had to do this movie. I was excited to see it for real, I guess, not like for snark.
And what's this movie called?
Oh, that's important. It's called A Merry Little Xmas. And I'm sure if you have any sort of Netflix account, it has been pummeled into your eyeballs because I feel like this is one of their hard pushes. At least if you're getting algorithmed like me, you know, they seem to push different shows to different people. But I would say the big star of this is Miss Alicia Silverstone of 1995's Clueless fame and some Aerosmith videos, if you are even older than that, which I do remember. So anyway, I've seen Clueless about 200 times. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I could watch it with just as much joy today as I did in 1995. And I just love that movie. And I was just excited to kind of see her pop out of nowhere. I guess I haven't really seen her doing anything in a while. I don't know if she's taken a break or been around or just Netflix went and found her, but I was glad to see her.
Yes, this movie also has Melissa Joan Hart. So from back in my day, we had Clarissa Explains It All on Nickelodeon. I grew up with that. And then also she starred in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, not to be confused with the reboot that kind of came on Netflix. It's all kind of dark and horror-y, but this was a more fun, you know, high school teenage kind of show that I used to enjoy. I think it was on like TGIF Fridays. So I remember coming home and watching that. So yeah, so it's got some good classic favorites in it. Okay, and then I'll pass it to Holly to talk more about the gentleman in this movie.
So the ex-husband is played by Oliver Hudson, who looked very familiar, and I looked through all of his TV and movie, and I don't think I really watched any of it, but you'd probably recognize him if you've been around for 20 years of the last like TV shows and seeing, you know, random actors around. And then the younger male romance interest, I guess you could say, is played by Pearson Fode, who I had just watched also on, was it on Netflix? I think it was on Netflix, a movie called The Wrong Paris, because it is about a bachelor type show, and they fool all the girls into thinking it's being filmed in Paris, France, but it's actually being filmed in Paris, Texas. So he plays the bachelor type character, and I thought it was pretty good. Like, I would recommend it if you're into that kind of scene, because I watched The Bachelor, so I got a kick out of it. I actually liked it a lot better than Real Bachelor. And, you know, he's a very good looking guy, like absolutely chiseled, takes off his shirt. So we get a little bit of that too, which good for him. If you're working that hard on your abs, I want to see him, show him off. So that covers pretty much all of it. The other younger lady is Jamila Jamil, and I don't recognize her.
So for those of you who are fans of the show The Good Place, she is in that series. I honestly, in this movie, her character is similar in so many ways to the character in The Good Place, because she kind of does more of this whole, like, I volunteer for orphans, I'm so amazing, I do this, and like kind of the name droppy personality. So she plays a similar character like she does in The Good Place, if you're familiar with that. but she's the younger love interest for the ex-husband. So I think just name-wise, the ex-husband of the main character is named Everett in the movie. We have Alicia Silverstone plays Kate. She's the main lady. We've got Chet, who's the young love interest, played by Pearson Fode. Melissa Joan Hart plays like the best friend. She's April. And then Jamila Jamil plays Tess as the younger love interest. So with that, I think we can start going into the movie. I do want to say there will be spoilers. So if you have an interest in seeing this movie, go ahead and watch it first. Come back to listen to this after. But now you're about to hear, how we felt about the movie, kind of the overall plot, and what stuff drove us absolutely insane or induced like anger in us. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and kick it off. So it starts with kind of an intro of like a typical love story intro with Kate. It's kind of like a cartoon overview of how Kate and Everett met. She worked in architecture in a firm in Boston. That's like her dream job. And she met a med student named Everett. They fall in love. And in typical like Hallmark movie fashion, you find out at the beginning of the movie, she kind of went to a small town where he like opened his practice as a doctor. And the small town is called Winterlight, which, of course it is. Okay, apparently Winterlight is in Vermont. I didn't even pay attention to that. So they, got married, had kids, but that's when it took a turn for the worse.
Right. So she was all about how, she had the like dream job as an architect, and then she left it all to follow him to his little hometown. So she had kids, and the little like cartoon sequence at the beginning kind of explains this. She didn't realize that small town doctors were married to their job. So they, basically they have these two kids, and she said, I was a single mom with a wedding ring. So she became a handyman, which I'm not really sure, or woman, how she was doing a job while she was the only one taking care of the kids. So that was a little confusing. But anyways, the point being, she had to give up her, career that she originally was dreaming of. And we find out kind of along the way, I feel like it was more later in the movie, that she became like this total like granola crunchy, like organic, like no, not buying any clothes new, and solar panels on the house, and making her own toothpaste, and composting, and, that kind of a thing became like her real passion. But you kind of find that out later.
Yeah, I think the idea is with her architecture, she wanted to change the world. So she was very like green, eco-friendly. So like, yeah, you find out she has like solar panels and all these things. So that's kind of her jam. Okay, so fast forward to, I think one of the kids is like about to graduate high school. He's like 18, and then her daughter is in college and is like 20. So at this point, I think it made sense for her and her husband to split up. They've been separated for a while when you kind of come into the beginning of the movie, and they're talking to the mayor, and they're basically like, we want a divorce. They're in a coffee shop.
Why does the mayor have to give them approval to get divorced? No one knows.
I don't know. And, it's a small town, so everyone's starting talking right away. And they use the word consciously uncoupling. So if you're familiar with that, I forget.
It's like Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin, I think, were the ones that released the statement about consciously uncoupling. So, yeah, kind of had to be around for that.
That's right. Yes, I was like Gwyneth Paltrow. That was it. I couldn't think of her name. Yes. So they use that language. And, of course, everyone in the small town's making fun of them. And they're basically saying, look, we still want to parent the kids well together, but we just don't want to be together anymore. And, on her side of things, she has, I think, bitterness, and I think rightful bitterness that she was a single mom for 20 years. And, he has his own complaints too, which we'll get into that. But you find out she's not telling anyone else yet in her life that she's going to sell the home, which they call the mothership for unknown reasons. And she has a job waiting for her. And that's kind of where her story's going.
And the job is in Boston, which is apparently where they moved from after he went back to his hometown. And then I just was thinking about this. The daughter went away to college at Oxford, which is very unrealistic because it's like the best college in the entire universe. So she's in England and she's coming home from the holidays with her boyfriend that works at like a Harry Potter something or another and basically tries to dress like, and that character was just a joke. He was just supposed to be funny and, you know, add a little humor, which is fine. And then the son wants to be a firefighter and not go to college. And she just, the mom is like, Kate is just saying, no, you need to write your college essays. You need to apply. You need to like you want to go away and see what's out there and not limit yourself to staying here. And, you know, just and then she's telling her daughter, don't move to your boyfriend's small town when you're done with college because he's from some small town in England. And, you know, she's trying to get her kids to just basically live their potential and, you know, not have any regrets and blah, blah, blah. So that was just like a little thing about the kids.
Yeah, it kind of comes out that you find out she clearly regrets her choice of moving to a small town, giving up her dreams and everything. I think also because she had no support. I think that's I don't think she regrets necessarily becoming a mom, but I think she regrets that everything happened the way it did and she gave up everything and got nothing kind of in return except, you know, being a single mom. Okay, yeah, so because of that, she clearly doesn't want her kids to follow in those footsteps. So as her daughter comes home from college and brings that weird boyfriend, his name's Nigel, by the way, you find out that Christmases are very crunchy, as Holly described it. Every ornament has to be like homemade or from old found things. They make origami paper birds to put on the tree, say something they're grateful for. Everything's just recycled and found. It's not, I guess your typical consumerist kind of Christmas. All right. So while she's gathering with her kids, also her ex-husband has two dads. He has gay dads. They come over too. Everyone's kind of gathering and talking. And then Nigel, of all people, the weird boyfriend, drops that Everett, the ex-husband, is already dating someone else. And this is news to our main character, Kate. So she's kind of upset. Her best friend, Melissa Joan Hart basically is like, well, have you stalked her? And she's like, no. And then I think a neighbor actually pulls up the stuff about what she looks like and they find the wrong person. It's kind of a not as attractive woman and she's all happy until she runs into Everett and his new fling at the hardware store that his two dads own.
So, of course, the girlfriend is drop dead gorgeous, like any woman would probably feel horrified. You feel like, oh, you just traded me in for the younger, skinnier, hotter, like model. And she's just very like cultured and like name droppy and all that stuff. And basically Kate is just trying to make a break for it to get out of the situation. And everyone just keeps piling into the store and she can't get out.
So, after this uncomfortable run-in at the hardware store, Everett basically says, hey, we should all have dinner together because who wouldn't want to have dinner with their ex-husband and their new datey person and everything. So they go to his house for dinner. The house is super decked out for Christmas, like lights and craziness. And I didn't realize it at the time, but because she's all like crunchy environmentalist, I think that bothered her a bunch. And then they talk a bit during this dinner. You find out that Everett's been dating this lady since Thanksgiving and has not mentioned it to Kate, even though they're supposed to be like open and honest with each other. You find out there's this dumb nickname between Kate and her ex-husband where he calls her Al and she calls him Betty. Do you want to talk about that, Holly?
So I guess she originally got the nickname Al because of Al Gore, who they supposedly met, you find out later, in the year 2000, which if anyone was around for that presidential election, you may remember it got down to hanging chads in Florida, whether George W. or Al Gore was going to win. But anyway, Al Gore was known as the extremely environmentally conscious, wanted green everything, still does, he still does that work, which is great. But so he just nicknamed her Al, I guess, all those years back. And then there is the Paul Simon song, I can call you Betty, Betty, if you call me Al. So she starts calling him Betty. He calls her Al. So the whole movie, that's how they call each other, even though it's sort of weird once they're broken up to me to do that in front of the new girlfriend. And you can tell it kind of bothers the new girlfriend.
Okay, so during this dinner, she continues name dropping and stuff. You find out she's like working from his living room or something. So, I mean, clearly they're like pretty datey. She's like in his house a lot, and they've been dating a while. So I think he tries to ask the kids and everything if they want to do some fun Christmassy stuff the next day. And Kate gets all upset. One, because she has a lot of these like traditions that they've always done, and she wants to keep doing them. And also she would feel like she's excluded, I think. So she says, no, I'm actually doing something with the kids. And it turns out she's going to take them to a Christmas tree farm to pick a Christmas tree.
So everyone's kind of griping and complaining, oh, why do we have to do this? But she is... Oh, so the guy at the front is wearing this weird Santa beard and hat. It's made out of like a mop with mop strings. It looks like yarn. I don't know. And he's just smiling at her. He pulls the beard down. You can see, oh, well, he's actually like this really cute young guy. And he's like feeling her hand over the glove when he shakes her hand. And she's like, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I'm just trying to see if you're wearing a wedding ring. And she's like, are you hitting on me? And she can't believe it. He goes, well, why wouldn't I? You're so beautiful and blah, 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 blah. And she goes, how old are you? And he says, 28 and the same age as you. And she's like, oh, that was good. So she's a little bit charmed, but, she's kind of keeps her distance. They get the tree. He carries it to the car, and then he is trying to, see her again, and she doesn't seem that interested. So he gives her his business card. I guess I hang up Christmas lights and I wear many different hats. And that's what his business card says.
I did think the scene was interesting because they had him come out strong right out of the gates. I mean, he literally just met this woman, clearly, much older woman than him, but that's fine. But he just jumps into like aggressively flirting with her. Like, I've never seen anything like that in real life.
No, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, so he kind of hits on her. He gave her his card, and the kids ditch her. I thought this was rude. They find out the dad's taking time off and wants to spend time with them. But here's the problem with this. One of her gripes is that he would never, ever, ever, ever take time off the entire time she was raising these kids. So I felt angry for her. Like, what do you mean you're now taking time off to spend time with the kids? Like, where was all this when I needed you? So you find out that the dad and the new girlfriend took them shopping and bought them all these new clothes and sweaters. And they mentioned, oh, no holes, and they fit perfectly. And, it's kind of a dig that, hey, how you raised us wasn't kind of our favorite. And this is really cool. And she's upset because she was trying to be environmentally friendly and she feels like she's being outdone. But then you find the dad's even taking more time with the kids, and he's inviting them to go sledding at the mountain, and it's delaying like plans she already had. She feels upset. Then I think she decides, I'm going to go sledding too.
So the sledding scene is kind of the first time we see that there's supposed to be a romantic spark still between the exes. So she... and she randomly brings Chet as her date, and she just, I guess, makes her feel better to, go when the ex-husband has his girlfriend. So she goes, I'm on a date. This is Chet. And Chet gives awkwardly like huge hugs to everybody, and it makes it awkward. And so anyway, Kate goes to the top of the hill and I think lets go of her sled or something, and it slides away. So she has to share a sled with her ex-husband, and they like cozy up, and you can tell his girlfriend is giving like the eye daggers, like, what is going on? I don't like this. And they go down the hill and they're going way too fast, I guess, because two adults make the sled go too fast or something. It's not real clear. And he's like, bail, bail, bail out. So they jump off. She gets a little bit hurt. He unzips her jacket and puts his hand under her sweater to feel around and see if her internal organs have exploded, I guess, as one does when one is a doctor. And they're looking in each other's eyes, and she has like that dopey face of like, oh, this is so romantic kind of thing. And still the girlfriend is giving mega eye daggers. At this point, they all come racing down and the moment's kind of interrupted. But you can see, I felt like that was the first time they were like you're supposed to be rooting for them to get back together.
Yeah, I think there's even a moment where Everett stares into her eyes and says, "You're pretty, sir, you're here with another woman. Like, save it." But anyway, after that, there's this weird scene where Kate ends up with Tess, who her sled got broken, and then Chet ends up with Everett. And they kind of have this weird therapy session where they're basically talking to each half of the spouse and I don't know, kind of having them re-look at their relationship.
Find out what the problems were kind of in more detail.
Yes, that's true. So, for example, Kate offers to fix Tess's sled. So while she's doing that, Tess is like, "Why'd you let him go? And like, what happened?" Because he's like amazing. He's like, what?
He clooneyed, which basically means, he got older and more handsome, and he's a family man, and these kind of guys are just not out there, and he's a unicorn, and why did you let him go?
Yeah, so you find out, basically that, again, she was left alone. He never took time off. He missed like every anniversary and birthday. I mean, this guy literally was married to his job, and it was almost like he didn't have a family. And then on his side, his complaints, which in my mind do not anywhere come near to the amount of betrayal and disrespect he showed by not being around. We're like, "Oh, she made like cinnamon toothpaste I had to use. Oh, I couldn't like get this grill or something."
Indoor grill. He wanted an indoor grill and she said no.
But, I feel like with some communication, you could figure that stuff out, or you could also just buy your own toothpaste. Like, there are ways to get around it, which is not the same as like abandoning someone to raise your children, like basically alone. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, totally agree. This is kind of where I just said, this is not equal. I don't understand how we're supposed to be rooting for this. Yeah. She composted the trash. Like, I don't know. It was not equal. So
no, it was definitely not. So basically, I think on both sides, the like young lovers were like, "Well, your loss is my gain." And later she goes talking to I think one of the gay dads, and basically is like, "I feel like I've lost my children. They like Tess more than me. I never even wanted this divorce, and I don't have Everett or the kids, and she needs a win." So the one of the dads is basically like, "Well, there's our, annual gingerbread competition," which is literally just like the family competition. It's not like a real thing. Do it with the kids and get your win because you're like the best ever at this.
All right. So it's the night of the gingerbread competition, and it's basically the same people in every scene. They keep getting together for all these holiday things. It's the dads, the exes, the new girlfriend, boyfriend, and the kids. So, and the Harry Potter boyfriend of the daughter. So they are all there, and Everett and his new girlfriend are just kind of canoodling-ish, sitting there, and Chet goes, "You want to make them jealous?" So she's just like, "I don't know." So he like picks her up, puts her on the counter, and he like takes off her apron and starts doing like a sexy dance. And I guess he's learned these moves as a male exotic dancer, he kind of reveals. So he's doing all kinds of fun. And it's just like, this character is such a joke. They don't make him a realistic option at all, which ticks me off, because like, oh, how could a 28-year-old actually be interested in this woman? Obviously, this is just a joke. So we just make him funny, so that it's just completely over the top. He's kind of getting in her face, like he wants to kiss her, but she just keeps pushing him away. And but
happily.
Not like, she's being assaulted, but like she just, is kind of laughing. But she keeps looking over at Everett the whole time instead of just, it makes the guy more jealous if you act like you don't know he's there, obviously, but she keeps looking at him and seeing if he's looking, and he is. And he's just kind of looking a little upset about it. I guess he believes that this Chet relationship is very real.
Okay, so now comes to the part that gave me so much anger that I was thinking about it the next morning in bed when I woke up, and I was like, this makes me so angry. So after, he sees this, hot young thing all over his ex-wife, he comes over to her. And while she's working on her gingerbread, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I wasn't a better husband. I spent so much time at work, and you and the kids paid the price. And he kind of gives an excuse, which I don't think is a very good excuse, but he says, his parents, they're the first gay couple in this small town and to have like a child. And he needed to feel like, like all eyes were on them. So he had to come out and do well and be this like successful doctor. And so because of that, he worked so hard. So that's why he became a workaholic. But I feel like nobody made you do that. And you could also get counseling. You could also there are lots of different ways to do this, instead of just abandoning your wife and kids. So he says he's sorry. And he says, when I get married again, I do want to have kids again, which is like, sir, you have 2 grown children. What are you doing? But that's neither here nor there. But he says he'll do better because of her. He'll do better for his next wife and kids. Rage. I just felt pure rage. Like, how dare this man who didn't treat you well this whole time tell you, well, because I messed up so much because of you, and now I'm like letting that all go, I'm going to do way better for this younger wife and future kids. So you find out this bothered her too, because when she unveils her awesome gingerbread city, it's of Winterlight, and it's like so impressive, and she's going to win. She's like, well, I learned something important today, that I made my ex-husband better for his future wife and kids. And she just smashes the gingerbread house. She's like, rage. Oh, yeah. She said, I thought my purpose was green architecture, but my purpose was actually to teach my ex-husband to be a better father and husband to his next wife and kids. So she was mad.
And I just want to interject with, I just love that she was in this, because I don't think she's had any plastic surgery, which kudos. In Hollywood, like, nobody looks the same 20 years later, or 30 years later. So from Clueless. And you realize it's all because of plastic surgery, because her face like has the exact same expressions that it did in Clueless. I'm like, oh, that was the face she made in that scene. And that was the smile she did in that scene. And that was the little frown she did in this scene. She just looked exactly the same, just as, a different age. So I thought that was really cool. And I should mention that all 3 of the, so Melissa Joan Hart and Alicia Silverstone and the guy are all 1 year older than me. So probably when this was filmed, it looked like it was really filmed in winter. So probably last winter, the same age as me. So I thought it was cool to see a little more representation than just 30-year-olds and 20-year-olds, especially in the romantic thing. Although I will say in those Hallmark movies, we are getting a lot of 45-year-old ingenues that have never been married. And it seems completely natural that they're single and never married. And it's a little weird to me. But this at least made sense, because she's been married for 20 years and there was a backstory that made sense for their ages. But so I thought that was all very interesting.
Okay, on to the next part that made me angry and see red. So after this whole meltdown, I think she mentions offhand, I can't wait to leave this place. So of course, they kind of confront her after, what do you mean you can't wait to leave this place? And then she admits, I got my old job back in Boston, which why Holly and I were talking about this earlier. It makes no sense. You got your old job back. It's 20 years later or whatever it is. No, you got a new job in Boston, but whatever. But she has this job, and she says she's going to sell the mothership, the house, and she's going to go move to Boston. I was so mad how everyone reacted to this. The ex-husband and the kids and everyone were like, how dare you? How dare you actually put yourself ahead of everyone else for once, and go follow your dream that you gave up for almost nothing in return, because no help or no support from your spouse or anything. What do you mean? They're trying to be but you're the life of this town as the handy woman, and why were you going to sell the house and not tell us and all this stuff? And I'm rude. No, she's allowed to make her decisions. They got a divorce or getting a divorce. Guess it's not final yet. Rude.
So moving on, it says it's December 24th now, and I guess they're doing a small gift exchange with the family in the evening. So Chet shows up at her door because inexplicably she has included him in all family events throughout Christmas time. And he's got a tux, and that's kind of a little much for this occasion. And he comes to tell her that it's his tearaway tux for stripping. And it's very hard to put it back together. So he's not going to show her how it works just yet. Maybe later. They go over to Everett's house, I guess it's at. Okay. So it looks like Everett's kind of accepted her decision, makes a toast. So you're finally getting, all your dreams, everything you wanted. Everyone's kind of like, cheers. They don't seem very happy. And sorry. So the gift exchange happens and Everett gets her custom made perfume, which I feel like romantic gifts are candy, jewelry, and perfume. So perfume definitely falls in that category of romantic. And it was handmade because she doesn't like any commercially purchased gifts. He made the smell that she smells like or likes to smell like or something by hand, whatever, picked it out. So she's just overwhelmed, and then she gets him the indoor grill that he always dreamed of, and he can't believe it. And then Everett gives his new girlfriend AirPods because she lost one in the sledding, and her mouth is on the floor, and she said, "You get her custom made perfume and you get me AirPods? I just can't believe this." And Kate had gotten the Harry Potter boy a replacement cauldron that lights on fire, which doesn't seem very safe.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned this earlier, but the dad and the new girlfriend got that for the boyfriend, but she broke it. Kate broke it because she was just really angry and she didn't trust Nigel with fire anyway.
So she gets him a new one, and the bag falls over and the remote pops out onto the floor. And so Chet picks it up and goes, "Oh, somebody's car key. Whose is this?" Click, 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 click. Which, why would you do that instead of just saying, "Whose car key fob is this?" So smoke starts coming out of the bag, but nobody notices. And next thing you know, the tree is on fire, which all of this seems very unsafe of a purchase if your thing would just light on fire. Anyways, so Chet tears away his tuxedo again
for no reason.
Makes no sense. He's trying to smother the fire, but he's doing it very wrong and just waving his tuxedo in the air, which makes the fire bigger and bigger. So the son, who wants to be a firefighter, does the right thing, which is calmly go to the kitchen, get out the fire extinguisher. And even though the fire seems like it's 20 feet high and completely out of control at this point, it immediately is extinguished with the fire extinguisher. So, yeah.
Okay, so at this point, the fire's out. I think the party's winding down. Everybody's getting ready to leave. Chet talks to Kate and is basically like, "Hey, are you really moving?" And she's like, "Yes, I am." He's like, "I could do long distance. I could do whatever, very realistically." And she's like, No, I'm sorry, but no. So this whole thing with Chet, literally, I don't even recall if they kissed. I don't even necessarily think
they did. So after she turns him down three ways, he goes, "Okay, well then," and then he kisses her. So this is the first time they've kissed, and she acts very uncomfortable and just kind of pulling away, but they did kiss.
Which I don't think is fair because, Everett's over there canoodling with his lady friend, but whatever. So she says, "No, I'm not interested in doing this, but you're a great guy." He says he understands. He talks in the third person a lot, Chet understands. But if you change your mind, let me know. So then you go to the evening where Kate's looking at old photos and okay, yeah, she looks at old photos and she's kind of talking to the house, "Sorry, house, I love you, and sorry I have to sell you." And then it turns out her daughter is actually downstairs and hears her, so they start talking because there's a huge wind happening and it's keeping everyone up. So then the sun comes down and they cuddle their mom, and then of course Everett shows up for some reason to her house. I guess Tess and him are probably not in good spirits at the moment.
So they all start looking through this family photo album together, and that's where the first page was, "This is the first photo we ever took together," and it says Y2K on the scrapbook page. So they're kind of having this moment. Okay,
so while they were looking at the Christmas Eve book, after that, Everett and Kate talk privately a little bit, and, you know, he's talking about the house, and he's like, you know, there's a lot that works in this house and a lot that doesn't work. And I don't know, it's clearly like an analogy for their relationship. There's a lot that works and a lot that doesn't work. Although in my head, that's not her fault at all. So then these big winds happen. And then you see the power going out everywhere. But you don't see it happen at Kate's house because she mentioned earlier she has solar panels and a giant battery that could like just power the house forever, basically.
And just a few other random things about this, if I could. Everyone is always leaving the door open to talk. And if you've ever lived somewhere that is freezing cold, like, no, just get the person inside and close the door. And they're just standing there in like silk pajamas with the door wide open and it's 10 degrees outside or less. And also she has no garage, which I guess if you live in a very old house in Vermont, wouldn't have one, but they usually have like barns that are converted. So anyway, her poor truck is always like iced over into a little ice ball. So no one can drive. The snow is piled up. No one has power. They decide to walk over to the dad's house, Everett's house, to see if they can just do Christmas without power. No one seems to, until they're all sitting inside with coats and hats, freezing, come up with the idea, which everyone should have had immediately, of just having Christmas at the one house that has heat. So they decide to go around the neighborhood and collect the neighbors, but no one's home except for the lady with the bum knee who is carried over there. And they get back home and all the neighbors already had come over.
Oh, but before this, Tess basically has this big stinking announcement at Everett's house, basically saying she's leaving. And they're like, it's not safe. And she's like, I don't care. He lights up when she walks in the room. And so anyway, they basically break up Everett and Tess. And, you know, Everett's like to her, well, the sex was good. And she's like, it was getting there. Which also made me really angry that I feel like Kate didn't actually have like any like kind of fun of her own. I mean, like at this point, the dad clearly was enjoying himself with this young thing over there. So, all right, they end up at the house. But everyone's there, and they basically tell Kate how much she means to them. Again, kind of guilting her into, like, you should be happy everything you do at this small town, even if it's not your dream, because we all benefit from it. She has a touching moment. Kate has a touching moment with Nigel. Basically, she's like, I see you make my daughter happy. And he makes her a vegan tart or something, because I guess she's vegan. And because his family like are cooks and he's like a chef or something. So that's nice. But then the son, you know, says, Mom, here's a Christmas present. I finished my college essay. And he starts reading about it, or reading it aloud to everyone. And it's basically like, who do I admire most? My mom. And these are the reasons why. And she's so moved by it that she throws it in the fire. And basically like, you should be a fireman. Go ahead.
So the next thing you see is Everett is outside on the upper balcony, which is very scenic. You know, she's got all these Christmas lights all over the house. There's snow gently falling. She just basically kind of wraps a blanket around and is somehow comfortable enough to stand out in 0 degrees next to him to have this heart-to-heart chat. He is holding, I believe, the packet of divorce papers and says they are ready to be signed and then it'll be final. And oh, by the way, I heard Chet and Tess are going to the Lion King together because anyway, Chet had picked her up in the snowplow because the girlfriend needed to leave like ASAP and Chet just happened to be going by a snowplow and they take off together. Then they decide they kind of don't want to get divorced. Neither one of them. He says finally, like he kind of comes around to where he probably should have been a long time ago. Oh, I'll quit the practice. I'll go with you to Boston. So he says he'd rather be dead than without her. And she says, well, I decided I'm not going to Boston. He goes, well, when did you decide that? She goes, just now, which again, that was irritating because I thought maybe she had decided that when everyone was going on and on about how giving the toast and we're going to miss this and we're going to miss that. And you've always been so great and such a part of our community. And I thought maybe that was when she was kind of changing her mind. Like, oh no, I'm really committed to this, but I don't really want to go. Well, no, she didn't change her mind until Everett is basically confessing he doesn't want to get divorced. And she says she couldn't leave him and the house. This house is like apparently more important than the whole family. They failed at their consciously uncoupling and never want to hear those words again. This isn't the future she expected, but it's the one she wants. And then they have their big finale kiss at the end. So you kind of hear a voiceover as the credits start to roll that she is opening it says 1 year later. There's like a very brief scene. She's coming home. She's talking about how she opened a sustainable something company. So she started her sustainability business, even though she stayed in Winterlight, and they are moved back into the house, and that's pretty much it.
Yes, I have strong feelings about this because Everett basically was like, I never wanted to get divorced or uncoupled or blah, blah, blah. But I mean, he was the one very quickly moving on to date someone else. So I don't buy it. I kind of feel like Kate was making a mistake. But whatever, I guess whatever makes her happy at the end.
So my feelings at the end were very irritated, just that it was kind of hard to root for them to get back together because the guy had literally just treated her terrible for 20 years. And again, why is it fine that a man, as soon as he's single, goes off and finds someone to have fun with, but the woman doesn't? She's just all stuck in, wallowing in misery, and a hot young guy comes along and she can't even take it seriously. And we can't even take him seriously because he's just made to be a joke. And so she could have had her fun. Yeah. She could have, the one upside was she was single. She could have had all the fun she never had because she got married so young. But no, that did not happen. And then you're like, well, I guess the husband, I felt like he did show that he was very remorseful and he's willing to give up his practice now. And if she wants to move to Boston, he'll go with her.
Too little, too late.
But yeah, 20 years is a long ass time. So I did kind of just have you're supposed to just have a certain feeling at the end of these movies where, oh, of course, it's destined to be. And I feel like we all just kind of were. He really screwed that one up pretty bad. So total stars out of 5. You want to go first?
Maybe 3. 3.
I was going to go 3 too. I feel like I'm also a pretty generous grader, so most people might not agree.
I mean, okay, compared to a typical Hallmark movie, I'd say all the acting was pretty good. Usually in a Hallmark movie, 2 leads are pretty good, and then everyone else is kind of wow, is this your first time acting? But no, I think the acting and the cast were all really good. Directing, everything. I just feel like the story didn't leave me feeling good, which I feel like these movies are supposed to do.
Very true. I felt like the winter and the cold was much more realistic. This is a good point that you make. I think they actually filmed it in winter, whereas most of these are filmed in August in Canada. The snow looks very fake, and they all look like they're hot in their parkas, and the sun is just too high. But this one, I felt like the breath being cold was real because you can tell when it looks fake. I don't know. This is important to me as someone who's lived cold places. So I liked that. They did make the town very charming. The house was very pretty. So there was some upside to the setting, I should say. And then IMDb has this at a 5.3 out of 10, which kind of tells you where people are at. Rotten Tomatoes only 43%. So I guess 3 out of 5 would be pretty generous from us. And then, but I do think now that you say the acting, it's so bad in a lot of these movies where they'll pick a male lead out of thin air that's not very seasoned in acting. And it's the whole time you're just I can feel you reading the script. It's just so bad. This one was very good acting. You never felt that stilted, stiff acting at all. So that was good. spicy peppers out of 5. I feel like it's always 1 in these One Kiss at the End movies.
I mean, the shirt taking off of Chet was probably the spiciest part of the whole movie.
True. And there is a great scene in The Wrong Paris, if you are interested, where he's bathing some horses and just starts spraying the hose straight up in the air and getting all wet. And you can just look up that one scene if you don't care to watch the whole movie. I already sent it to Lily for her enjoyment because I enjoyed it. And so I'm glad that, he got to take off his shirt in this movie. And he had little candy cane boxer briefs on. Let's just note everything about that scene. So there you go. I would say 1.5 spices for me. Okay. So, yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up our return to our Redheads on Romance podcast. Thank you for joining us for this ride, and hopefully we'll be back soon and you can join us for the next one.